Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is literally the ultimate cosmic detective case. You know, when you look up at the night sky, you aren't just looking at stars, you're staring into a galaxy containing hundreds of billions of them. For decades now, astronomers have been mapping this vast expanse, cataloging solar systems, running the probabilities. We're talking about a cosmic scale so staggeringly massive that human intuition just completely breaks down. With billions of years of history and billions of stars burning in the Milky Way alone, the stage is perfectly set for life to arise, evolve, and spread out. And yet, as we'll see, this massive scale creates a deeply uncomfortable, mind-bending mystery that challenges everything we think we know about our place in the universe.
So, let's anchor all that vastness with one very specific, grounded number: 50 million. Thanks to decades of relentless exoplanet research, especially that massive treasure trove of data from the Kepler Space Telescope, astrophysicists have calculated a really conservative estimate of potentially habitable worlds. Just within our own Milky Way, there are roughly 50 million distinct, rocky planets orbiting their stars right in the Goldilocks zone. You know, that sweet spot where it's not too hot, not too cold for liquid water. Just imagine that for a second. 50 million separate cosmic experiments, 50 million distinct environments with the exact right chemical recipes to potentially harbor life sitting right now in our galactic backyard. Statistically speaking, it's a number that pretty much guarantees we are not alone.
But here's where that statistical guarantee just absolutely crashes headfirst into reality. Despite those 50 million potential homes for life, we currently have absolutely zero proof that any extraterrestrial intelligence exists. Think about this. Organizations like SETI have been sweeping the skies for over half a century with massive radio telescopes, listening for any anomalous frequencies. We've been actively eavesdropping on the cosmos. We're waiting for a stray transmission, a deliberate beacon, or honestly, even just the electromagnetic pollution of some advanced civilization. And the result of all those decades of intense targeted listening? A deafening silence. The math insists the galaxy should be teeming with sprawling civilizations, but our actual observations reveal a totally empty, silent void. And really, this whole eerie situation boils down to three simple words that famously echoed through a Los Alamos cafeteria back in the summer of 1950. The physicist Enrico Fermi was walking a lunch with some colleagues, casually chatting about a cartoon about flying saucers, when he suddenly did some quick mental math in his head. Realizing the sheer age and size of the universe, he just blurted out the now legendary question, where is everyone? I mean, given the immense cosmic real estate and the billions of years the galaxy existed before Earth even formed, an advanced civilization should have easily had enough time to colonize the entire Milky Way by now. The profound absence of anyone out there isn't just surprising, it demands a radical explanation.
And just like that, the Fermi Paradox was born. It's that maddening contradiction between the overwhelmingly high mathematical probability of alien life existing and the complete, utter lack of proof. Now, for those of us who follow astrophysics closely, the parameters of this paradox are pretty familiar territory. But what's truly fascinating here isn't just the paradox itself, it's the uncomfortable realization that either our mathematical models are fundamentally broken or there is some invisible barrier suppressing life across the cosmos. Something profound is keeping us from seeing our neighbors. So to reconcile this massive gap between theory and reality, we need to unpack some of the more extreme hypotheses. To figure out what's going on with the silence, let's examine two wildly different, very specific suspect theories from our sources that attempt to resolve this paradox. First, we'll look at the dark forest hypothesis, which introduces a chilling psychological motive for the silence. Then, we'll pivot to a really fascinating biological spin on the Great Filter Theory, one that completely rethinks the physical scale and evolutionary trajectory of highly advanced life forms. Let's dive in. All right, first up, we've got this psychological motive, famously known as the dark forest hypothesis, which suggests the galaxy is quiet because of an intentional, deliberate radio silence. Here on Earth, humanity has been inadvertently screaming our existence into the void for over a century, right? Our early radio broadcasts, TV signals, radar arrays, they've been rippling outward at the speed of light, effectively announcing our location to anyone listening within 100 light years. So the logic goes, if an advanced civilization is maintaining total radio silence, it is not an accident. It requires a massive, coordinated, and frankly chilling effort to mask their technological footprint, trap their own radiation, and remain entirely invisible. And why are they doing that? Cosmic paranoia. This theory posits that the universe is essentially a dark, sprawling forest at night.
In an environment where resources are finite and exponential expansion is the ultimate goal of any living civilization, trust is just impossible. Because communicating across light years is incredibly slow, a chain of suspicion forms. You can never really be sure of another species' true intentions. Revealing your location to a potentially aggressive, technologically superior neighbor, that invites instant annihilation. So the most logical, mathematically sound survival strategy is to stay perfectly quiet and hide. They are out there, but they're absolutely terrified, holding their breath in the dark so the apex predators don't find them.
But hold on, what if we're looking at this all wrong? What if the answer isn't rooted in psychological fear at all? Moving away from paranoia, we shift to a biological interpretation of the Great Filter. This theory forces us to confront our own human bias. When we imagine highly advanced extraterrestrials, we almost instinctively picture giant, space-faring empires. We think of massive Dyson spheres and enormous metal ships, basically scaled-up versions of us. But what if the Great Filter isn't some catastrophic war or asteroid strike? What if it's a necessary evolutionary shift? What if, instead of expanding outward into the macro-universe, truly advanced life masters its environment by fundamentally shrinking its physical scale?
Which brings us to a totally unexpected timeline. Imagine this. Life emerges and evolves on a habitable planet. Maybe it grows larger and develops basic technology just like we did. But eventually, those evolutionary paths take a radically different direction. To get around the harsh physical limits of biological bodies and the absurd energy costs of space travel, advanced civilizations might choose extreme miniaturization. By shrinking down to a microscopic or even nanoscopic scale, a civilization drastically reduces the resources it consumes. Think about it. Entire civilizations could exist within the space of a single grain of sand. They prioritize maximized computational power and absolute energy efficiency over crude physical expansion. They haven't disappeared at all, they've just optimized themselves out of our field of view, existing on a scale our radio telescopes were literally never designed to detect.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider the sheer extremes of the cosmos we inhabit. This silence we've been listening to for decades, it's trying to tell us something profound about the true nature of advanced life. The next time you step outside and look up at the vast expanse of the night sky, let this question linger. Are we staring into a terrifyingly quiet, paranoid dark forest where countless civilizations are just too frightened to breathe a word? Or are we completely misjudging reality, blindly searching for massive empires while actually surrounded by a thriving, invisible, microscopic ecosystem? The answer's out there, just waiting in the silence.